everybody. I'm Casey. I'm moving this back because it's like way far up. Okay. Hey guys. My name is Casey. I am Pastor Joe's, that's so weird to say. I'm my dad's daughter. So I've kind of been with the church and everything since it started. I'm just gonna get to it. When I was praying for what to speak on or whatever, the Lord kind of just told me to share about myself and kind of my walk, because I went from being in middle school and high school to being involved in a college group that's extremely active and on fire for the Lord, and kind of the transition piece that I went through, because I wasn't always comfortable to go out and do street ministry and pray for people. That was definitely took me out of my comfort zone. And when I was praying, the Lord kind of gave me some words, and the first word he gave me was intimacy, and that's something that I had to learn. And spending time with the Lord and how that gives you what you need to go out, because you can't just go out, in the world and do what he calls you to do if you don't take the time by yourself with him. You can't rely on everyone else, and that's something that I had to learn. Growing up, I grew up in church. We moved down here 7 years ago, right? And we started a church. When did we start here at this place? Yeah, about 10 months after we moved, we started it. So it was a definite transition for me to deal with my dad being a pastor, and not just because we were always very involved in church, but having him as a pastor was something that definitely for me personally was a transition. And it's I heard all these things, and I would see all these things, and we would do all these things, but I never really applied it to my life. I just kind of, had in my mind okay, well, my dad's a pastor, so I'm good. I don't need anything else, but I just need to keep going with him. My mom, I'll be good. And going through middle school and high school, it was really hard for me. I mean, I'm 19. I'm going to be a sophomore in college. I'm not, much older than some of you guys here, so it's not I'm, this grown person. But just what I had to learn in that time was, I can't do it on my own. We can't do it on our own. And something that, the Lord really just pressed on me to speak to you guys about is, just spending that time with him is what really activates you to go out with confidence, knowing, that he's going to be there with you, and you are going to get everything you need when you're out. And even in your everyday life, it doesn't have to be something like this. And that's what I spoke a couple Wednesday nights ago about how the Lord was just kind of reminding me that I get in my own way sometimes, and he would go out and he knew exactly what he needed to do. He came on this world, Jesus came on this world with an assignment, he knew. And it's when we spend that time with him, we gain our identity, and we know. And it's that piece of actually stepping out and doing it is what I struggled with. I'm a very shy person. I'm quiet. When you get to know me, you probably, anyone who knows me is no, you're not, but I really am. And I really struggled with confidence and who I was in, I'm going to get emotional, I'm sorry, when I was in middle school and high school. And it wasn't until my senior year that I really started actually grasping the fact that spending the time with the Lord and having that intimate time and being completely open to him and letting him come in and change my life, I didn't grasp that until my senior year. And it's when I grasped that, my whole world was completely turned around, and I stopped caring about what everyone thought of me and what I looked like and what people just thought, because I was so worried. I was that person. I would go through my days in school, and I was quiet, and I tried to be friends with everyone, not to get anyone to like me, just because I didn't want anyone not to like me, but I didn't care. There were people that didn't like me, and I was okay with that, but I liked being nice to people. And I had myself so convinced, though, that I didn't like people, And as funny as that sounds, it's like I wanted to be friends with everyone, but at the same time, I convinced myself so much that like I hated people and that I was just going to be like, I don't like people, you don't need to talk to me, I'll be nice to you, but just don't, like I had that mindset, and it's like, I can't even explain it, but like when you spend that intimate time with him, it just completely like transforms everything. And okay, let me do this. And so another thing that helped me kind of get to the place I am now, and I'm still growing. I still make mistakes. I still have a lot of things I need to work on. I mean, I know we all do, but I still have a lot of things I need to work on. So when I'm saying this stuff, it's like I am not perfect. I am far from perfect. But the good thing is we don't have to be perfect to be used by the Lord. So that's really cool. And that's something I didn't understand either. Because for a while, I was kind of just like, well, I'm not good enough for this. I'm not an outgoing person. Like I would hear when they started doing street ministry, I honestly thought they were crazy, because I know a lot of the people that like are on this side of town because I go to school with them. And in my head, like when they had first started, and because it was just you two that started walking like when we first got here, and I was thinking to myself, Lord, they're going to see people I know, and they're going to ask if they know me, and that's going to be the most embarrassing thing if someone comes up to me and is like, hey, I saw your dad. Because I had, like, after a while I had people doing that, and I just didn't know how to react. I was like, yeah, that's my dad. Because I didn't, like, But, okay, I'm kind of like going all over the place, but I'm getting to this point. My senior year, the people who like started Encounter started coming to church, and I already knew I was going to UNA. So my parents were like, hey, you should, go and get involved. And I still had myself completely convinced I didn't like people. I was even more awkward and like uncomfortable, like stepping out of my comfort zone and talking to people. I still remember the first time they introduced me to the college kids, and I said hi. Like I was so nervous, I was shaking, I almost started crying. Like I was so overwhelmingly, like I can't even describe it. And so they were like, you just need to go. Like my parents were like, you need to go. And I was like, I am not going. You guys are not making me do this. So finally, I went, and that's really when I started like grasping the concept of there are people that are my age that are so on fire for the Lord that don't care what other people think. They are just going after him. And it just like, it all clicked. And it's like I hear all these things in church, you hear about, and that's when I really started like spending time with him and having those intimate moments with him and being completely vulnerable and open to let him just come in. Like I would just sit and be like, okay, let's do this thing, and just sitting with him and just opening myself up, because like it's not until those times that you're gonna like find who you are. Like you can't, the world isn't going to give you your identity. I'm sorry, I hate to break that to you, but the world isn't. And that is something I had to learn, because I never did anything crazy. Like I didn't party, I didn't like get in with the wrong crowds, but I didn't know who I was. I went through my middle school and high school struggling with friendships. I didn't know what a real friend was. I was friends with people that turned around and stabbed me in the back and talked about me, and it's like, I thought they were my best friend. We used to hang out. I told them everything, and then I find out 5 other people know my business now because I was open with the wrong people, because I didn't have that time with the Lord for him to tell me like, hey, that person you're hanging out with, maybe it's time to step away. Like I didn't have that. And I had my family that did this stuff and spent that time with him, and we did this amazing stuff at church. I was on the worship team. I was involved in church, and when I was in church, it was amazing because I would see these things. I would be used for certain things, but I would step out, and that was it. I would be here and have the mindset of, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, there are people being healed. There are people being set free. The Holy Spirit is just moving. We're all on fire. And then come Monday, when I had to go to school, I was back to being little Casey, who didn't know who she was, who didn't have friends, who was struggling. I had trouble with myself, like loving myself, and being confident with myself. I still have insecurities, and I still have confidence issues at times. But it wasn't until I started spending time with him and allowing him to speak into me like everything that I needed to hear. And I still remember sitting in my room at times I couldn't say anything, and I would just cry. Like, I'm just letting you know, tears, when you're spending time with the Lord, tears say more than your words ever could sometimes. Like, there are times where I just sit and I just cry because I can't say anything. I don't know what to say, but I cry, and he knows, and he comes in and he fixes me and puts all the pieces that I need back together. But it all comes down to just dropping everything and just being with him. Jesus did it. Jesus went and spent time with the Father before he went out and did things. I mean, we're supposed to be like Jesus, you know, and it just took me so long. And I keep saying that because there are a lot of you guys that are in high school. I know things happen for a reason. I know we all have our stories. But, like, if I really grasped this concept and saw people my age or around my age when I was younger on fire and spending that time with him, I sit and think, and I'm like, okay, yes, we all go through, like, there's a lot of things I've been through in my life, and we all have our testimonies, we all have our stories, and it's like, I know that there's a reason that it took me until my senior year to grasp and really step into what he has for me. I know that. But it's like I sit back and I'm like, man, if I knew this stuff, and I started when I was a freshman, like, when I was a sophomore, when I was a junior, like, where would I be now? Like, I get those thoughts because I'm just like, that'd be so cool to, like, see, you know, but that's okay. And I keep saying this because it's like, I have a heart because, like, for people, because I was so lost. Like, I was caught up in everything else when I was in high school with people and not knowing myself. And another part that, like, really helped me gain, like, love and learning how to love is I was an aide in our special education class my junior and senior year. And I know now why I was put in that position, and that's because I had so much trouble loving people because I had myself completely convinced that I couldn't do that. And it's like when I was with them, I just learned how to love and be so there is no judgment. Like, when you're there, you are so loved. You receive such a great amount of love from those kids. I mean, a lot of them are older than me, but from those kids, that it's like, it helped me understand that you don't have to be anyone. You don't have to, you can look at people all you want, and you can judge what you see. You can. I used to do it. I still struggle with it sometimes. I'm being completely honest with you. But when you're around people that just love and don't care what you look like, they don't care what you're like, you just learn to love even better. Like, you just learn, like, my heart grew so much in that time. So my senior year, I started with Encounter, and I still remember, like, the second time I was there, we did hot seat, which is what we're going to do later. I was very awkward because I didn't understand, like, I'd never spent that time with the Lord, so I didn't know how he spoke to me. Like, I'm just being honest. I was just kind of sitting there. I was like, okay, so all these people are getting these really cool things, and I'm just kind of like, okay. And it was really awkward for me because I was uncomfortable. It was getting me out of my comfort zone. But it's like after that and after being with them, like, I started spending time with the Lord, and I started doing street ministry. And I started realizing that that's what I needed to do. I just needed to step out of my comfort zone. I just needed to spend time with the Lord. I call it my Jesus time. I really do. Like, y'all, there are times where I'm just like, okay, I need to have my Jesus time because I'm having a rough day, and I know I just know. So, fast forward, spring break, and this is kind of like where I'm getting at. Like, I know I'm kind of all over the place. I feel like I'm all over the place, but spring break, they went to New Orleans, and I went with them. And that mission trip rocked my world. And when I say rocked my world, I mean, I still remember eating Panera Bread with my dad and crying into my salad because I was like, I just don't know what I want to do with my life. I was like, I had myself so convinced that I don't like people, and I got back. And I realized like that's what I want to do. I just want to love on people. And I still remember it because it was such a shift, and it just like the Lord used me, and I didn't even think he could use me, like, because I didn't fully prepare myself for what he was going to do. And I was so shy, and I was quiet, and I still remember the first night we were on Bourbon Street, felt like we needed to go pray for this guy in a wheelchair, so they were like, hey, you and this other person go over there, and they were like, all right, do you want to pray? And I was like, no, you can do it. You can do it. And like every time someone would be like, do you want to pray? I'd be like, no, you can do it. You can do it. Because I didn't think that I could pray for people. Like I didn't think, that I was capable of, I believed it. I saw healings. Like I would go on street ministry, and I would be there and agree in prayer with people, but I never really spoke anything because I was letting that like fear come in and just kind of be like, okay, you guys can go ahead. I'll just stand back. I did that so many times. Like I'm not kidding. But I just learned that I really do love people. And even though I'm quiet, and even though I'm shy, and even though I'm awkward, the Lord can use me. And after that, I started really like spending those intimate moments with him for him to just, for me to just give so much to him and let him just search me and just expose those dark places that I needed to work on and make those dark places new and bring something out of me that I didn't know I was capable of doing. And the more I started doing that, and the more I was so vulnerable to him, and I would just sit and cry. I still do it, y'all. But I sit and cry, or I sit and I'm just like, Lord, just show me what I need to do. Just reveal these things to me. Like, you don't have to be anything special. You just need to be you. He will meet you right where you are. You can be in your car. You can be in your room. You can be in your bathroom. It does not matter. If you just say, Lord, just come on, I'm here. He will meet you where you are, and the things that he will do is amazing. And like that summer and like into this school year and all this stuff, like, because I had spent that time with him, and I just went in expecting, like I knew when I would go in those times that he was going to do, like he was going to prepare me for whatever I needed. And it's like I sit back now and I realize, and I'm not saying this to like, but I didn't fully grasp the change that he's he's done to me, because I was just kind of like, I kind of still had the mindset of, okay, I'm going in and I'm praying and I'm like, okay, Lord, change me, and it'd be amazing. But then I'd kind of come out and I'd be like, okay, cool, I'm just going to go with the flow. And Casey, I go with the flow, And then like, I started praying for people. I started getting the confidence to pray for people. I started actually taking that time when I'm laying hands on someone and someone else is praying to listen and see if he's going to reveal something to me to speak into them. Like, I started understanding that time alone with him really did activate me to be more confident and to do what I needed to do out in the world. And it didn't click until I started actually like pushing myself to do things. And like I keep saying, I still struggle. Like when I spoke a couple Wednesdays ago, like he like asked me if I would stop and pray for someone, because I have the notes, but because it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, when I'm on street ministry or when I'm, when we're doing things at Encounter, like I have all the confidence in the world. When we were in New Orleans, like that trip was amazing. And the way I just opened up and I was like, okay, Lord, I'm just going to do whatever you want me to do. And if you want me to pray for this person, I'm going to do it. If you don't, and you just want me to agree in prayer, I'm going to do it, because I'm just going to follow you. Because like I just had such a shift in my life. And it's like, but he was just like, all right, so what about that person in Walmart when you're in the checkout line? And I'm like, what? What? And he's like, yeah, what about that person? And I was just kind of like, yeah, I didn't want to hear that. Because it's like I want to go and I want to travel and I want to love on people. And like that's what I want to do. But it's like he was just like, well, if you're not going to do and pray for the person that I have in front of you, then how am I going to know, and how am I going to send you across the country to pray for those people over wherever? And it just kind of clicked. And I'm saying all this to come back to the fact that it all started when I was just open with him in quiet time. And I'm saying that because that's really where it starts. You're not gonna, you can go out and you can pray for people, and I'm not saying things aren't gonna happen. But you're not going to have everything that you need if you don't let him show you what, like, your identity and what you actually do need. Like, you can read it and you can have people say it. I lived and I did things just going off of what people said. I did. Because I thought, my dad's a pastor, I'm good. If he's saying it and if it's in the Bible, he's saying it's in the Bible, then I'm good. I'm just going to listen to him. He's my dad. That's cool, okay? But when you actually start applying it and, like, going and like, I can't even explain it. I really can't, because it's just, there's such a shift. And I find myself now, like when I was just talking to my dad, like, anymore when I have my quiet time, I need to make sure that I don't have anything planned, because I just get in it. And it's like I don't want to come out of it. I just want to stay, and I just want to sit with him. I don't have to say anything. A lot of times I just have music playing, and I just sit in his presence because it's so amazing, because I know in those times I'm not saying anything. He's either saying something or he's not, but he's still there, and he's still filling me, and he's reigniting that fire every time I'm with him. Because the fire that's inside isn't going to stay lit and ignited and whatever if I'm not taking that time to open myself up to him. And it's like the more I open myself up to him, the more I am able to open myself up to others and share my heart with others. Because I'm a closed off person. I'm not going to say, like, I open myself up, like, you're going to ask me how are you and I'm going to spill my beans. Like, I'm not going to do that. But I definitely am not going to hide what the Lord's doing in my life. And so, yeah, and I kind of wanted to share this also, just to show you the cool things that can happen when you actually spend time with him and, like, ask him, what he wants to do and all this stuff. One day I was in my prayer time. I go through some rough patches sometimes, I'm just going to be honest. But a couple months ago, I was just going through a really rough time, and I was just very lost. I was very, I don't even know how to describe it, but I wasn't myself. I was faking. I was very, like, I put on an act of, oh, I'm great. Oh, it's just great. But in reality, I was broken inside. I wasn't completely spending the time with him that I needed to, because I was like, I know he's going to tell me exactly what I need to hear, and I don't want to hear that right now. Like, I'm being honest. Like, I would seriously, and then there were times where I would be with him, and I would let him have it. I would just tell him everything that's going bad. Obviously he knows, because I'm just saying, another thing I learned, he knows everything about you. Everything. You can't hide anything from him. And I learned that. But there are times where I'd let him have it. And then I'd let him have it and be like, okay, cool, I gotta go. One day I was sitting there, and I just knew that I just needed to just shut everything down and just be with him. And it was really cool. And I was sitting there, and I was, like, curled up in a ball, and I was just like, okay, Lord, what's going on? And I just didn't know, like, I was just so, my mind was so just out of it and everything. And he just showed me this picture of, like, me sitting at his feet, and I was crying. And he reached down and, like, touched my head and put my head, like, on his knees. And I was just sitting there, like, leaning on him, just crying. And then, like, I realized that I was just sitting there crying in my time. And it's like, he just reminded me that I just need to go to him and just sit at his feet. And he'll remind me who I am. He'll give me my identity. I needed so many reminders. I still daily need reminders of who I am, because I let little things at times just get me off track, and I let little things just come in and completely, like, shift my mindset. Like, I could be having a good day, and then something comes, and I get, like, Casey is completely off and I'm mad. But it's like, when I had that, like, it was just the reminder of I just needed to go to him. I just needed to go to him completely broken with the mess that I felt I was in. And he was going to make it better, because he's the only one that can make it better. We can try to search in the world. We can try to find friends and people to make things better and tell us what we want to hear to make us feel good. You can do that. I did it. But guess what? That's not going to satisfy you. That's not going to give you your true identity. That's not going to put you in a place to make you be able to go out and be confident in who he has, who he's called you to be, and what he's going to do through you. It's not. And like, yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to read this real quick. Funny story. I got this verse this morning. Like, I was like, Lord, I know what verse it is. I know what verse it is, and I just couldn't find it. But I just really like this. Like, it just really, I really like this, because it's just a perfect example of spending time with him, and like then just turning around, or how like the Lord, or Jesus spent time with the Lord, and then he turned around and was like, all right, let's go. I'm ready. So Mark 1, 35 through 39. It says, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, he got up, went out, and made his way to a deserted place, and he was praying there. Simon and his companions went searching for him. They found him and said, everybody's looking for you. And he said to them, let's go on to the neighboring villages so that I may preach there too. This is why I have come. So he went into all of Galilee, preaching in their synagogues and driving out demons. That's very short, sweet, and to the point. He knew the assignment that he had on this earth. He still went and spent time with the Lord and prayed and spoke to the Father, and he did. But then he was ready, and he was just ready to go out. And it's like, the reason I'm saying all this is because if you really want to see the change in the world, if you really want to know who you are, if you really want to get to the place that you need to be in life, you need to spend time with him, because you're not going to get there with your friends. You're not going to get there just sitting in church, listening to the pastors, whatever, because I did that, and I know it wasn't what I needed to do. And it's like, we're about to go out on the street. Like, for me, it changed my world when I went out and prayed for people and stuff like that. And I'm just telling you, even if you've done it before, it's going to change your world, because you're going to be used in ways. And I just want to encourage you, start spending time with him. You're not too young. You're not this. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to go spend time with him and just be fully expecting that he's going to do something in your life, because he is. And yeah. So, that's all I have to say.